Hi. Reverend MeeLing, Lady Dori Belle, Reverend Susan MeeLing, you name. Anyway, so I'm going to discuss since, doing that video on quarantine and lockdown and stuff. I kind of figured let me discuss some military stuff. Meaning, well, my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister preferred my dead ex-husband when he was alive instead of me, because he was going to college and he got his degree and he was going to get his PhD and he was going to be so smart and, all that stuff, and they saw how miserable I was. So, that was why he was fantastic, mainly to Anna and Patricia, but that is what it is. So, obviously, my ex-in-laws, with the exception towards the end of essentially his biological father and his biological brother, they kind of were like, yeah, and like the biological father and biological brother, after their relative died, they were like, I thought I knew him and I didn't. Whereas biological mother, biological sisters, meaning Susie Marie Nichols Lopez and Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, were like my biological family. No, he was in college. He was getting his PhD. He was going to do so much, despite the fact that he would have never, ever thought to look at the genome that he looked at for breast cancer research if I didn't tell him what to do, if I didn't tell him what type of experiments to run, if I didn't tell him which specific one to look at that started with a T. I didn't tell him that he would have never. But, I'm going to that military aspect. So, where I have never stolen valor, even with my Medal of Honor art project, let me explain that. I did not sign my name the way an artist traditionally signs their name, which is, big name, big letters in, a little corner area, because I did not want to detract from what those guys did. Those Medal of Honor recipients, where I got their mark, they are the ones who deserved all of that. And so my signature is only my initials SML. And they are in minute little areas. There are multiple of them. I don't deny that. But in minute areas where you actually have to look for it, because I did not want to take away anything from what they, as in the Medal of Honor recipient, had done. So, and anybody who I spoke with about my Medal of Honor art project, if they had said, which a few did, oh, that's really cool what you're, yeah, but the focus is on what the Medal of Honor recipients did. Now, I didn't tell anybody about my signature process because I didn't think it was anybody's business, which realistically. Now, when I had, if I could, get it into a project aspect, like for actual other veterans who did stuff in comparison to me, like I would, have no problem with them doing it. But as of March 26, 2020, none of the pieces done that were encased by McClendon's had my signature in a big way at all. It's a personal thing. So, in reference to the military aspect, when my now dead ex-husband had still been alive. After he returned from overseas, was in what is now the Warrior Transition Unit, he had, for Halloween, worn his dress blues. And before I continue on, where I looked at Halloween as just another day that I got to actually dress up. The only difference is I could dress up and go out in public and not have like real issues in comparison. Irony, that year I dressed up as Little Bo Peep in a little hoop. And he, who had the traditional view of what Halloween is, wore, ironically, his dress blues. What a weird little coinky-dink. So, yeah, think about that, cherubim ones, when you listen to this, yeah. Think about that point, yes. So, went out with my son and my daughter. My son was a little red Power Ranger. My daughter, I allowed her to wear my fairy wings. The only one I allowed to wear my fairy wings, by the way. Just saying. Never gave them away. They were on the U-Haul truck that had issues. So, if anybody I once knew has been wearing those fairy wings, they did not have my permission, and that would be a way for the police to be able to track that down, especially with like the picture frames and picture albums and stuff like that. So, going on, when out, he apparently got yelled at for his dress blues. And later he complained to me because I didn't know, I didn't defend him, and I was like, well, again, similarly to when breaking my birthday gifts, the only ones he ever got that he didn't actually pick out. Again, thank you, Atlantis Discovered guys. I do apologize that they were broken, even though it wasn't technically my fault. But still, great stuff. Personal thing. Anyway, so, and I know that there are other people who know exactly how phenomenal that store is. So, went, listened to him complain, and I was like, well, what was the problem other than they were wrinkled, and there was no brasso on any of your fruit salad, and your cover was disheveled as and then your shoes that are patent leather had scuffs on them. I mean, Well, then I got in trouble and I was like, yeah, you can't have a conversation with me. We're over. So, no. And so when later he died, again, I hadn't seen him in 2 days, hadn't spoken with him in 2 days. I was in a different part of the city. There was the funeral aspect, and the E7, who was my funeral director, was direct ordered, for those who understand military stuff, he was direct ordered by a Chief Warrant Officer 3 not to show up at an E5 infantry funeral. Those who do not understand that, look up military ranks. You can look it over and you can see officers are higher ranking than chief warrant officers who are higher ranking than enlisted. It does not matter if the enlisted soldier is an E10 or a command sergeant major of the Army. Any chief warrant officer, that command sergeant major of the Army, still has to salute even a chief warrant officer 1 or a second lieutenant. Obviously still has to salute all the way up to general. and Chief Warrant Officer 4, or Chief Warrant Officer of the Army, or General of the Army. But yeah, E5 infantry soldier, not denouncing the infantry, not denouncing enlisted, but E5 infantry soldier's funeral had an E7 funeral director who was direct ordered not to go to the E5 infantry soldier's funeral by a Chief Warrant Officer 3. There are only 4 ranks in the Chief Warrant Officer, because Chief Warrant Officer 5 is Chief Warrant Officer of the Army. I'm sure it translates over to the different branches, but in their own names for their different ranks. Now, when you look that up, as far as officers are concerned, there was nobody below. Okay, so there was one captain, which was his company commander, and then there was 2 different lieutenant colonels, 1 major, and then there were a whole bunch of colonels with those words, and a whole bunch of 1-stars, and then 2 different 2-star generals at an E5 infantry funeral. Now, want to rewind and pause that point right there. So there was the Chief Warrant Officer 3, who I got to meet. Very nice guy. I'm not being rude, by the way. I know it might come across as such. I was told that at the time when I spoke with the 2-star general, and it's like, no, it just doesn't make sense. No. I'm not being rude. I'm appreciative everybody was there. I just don't understand why. Does not make sense. And so, anyway, get to the Fort Worth area from San Antonio. That drive took 8.5 hours because of traffic. And before I could get out of the car, my 2 ex-sisters-in-law and their children and my ex-mother-in-law surrounded the car. And it's like, what's going on? I don't understand. What happened? And as soon as I'm able to actually open the door, by the way, the irony, before I go on, the irony is the first Christmas ever, I found out that Grandma Nichols is into angels, and the angels that she's into are ironically cherubim. That's like her favorite type of angel. And so I found this cherubim, 2 cherubim holding like a little basket that looked like a ribbon, and I painted it. And I was like, are you sure you really like this type? Before I got it to do the artwork, are you sure you really prefer these types of angels? Because if you really, I mean, I'll make you something, but, and then like when I gave it to her, she was like, oh, I can see my 2 daughters' faces. It was like, irony. So going back, and she put it at height level to her, so that way she could see it every time she walked past that wall. Anyway, so I get out of the car finally, and they tell me, the Army won't talk with us. Well, yeah. Executrix, you're not the executrix. I'm the executrix, you're not the executrix. And so I walk in after getting my children squared away, that whole thing. Walk in, and I'm expecting to see that E7. And then I see a Chief Warrant Officer 3. And those who have met me, when certain situations occur, there might be a pause if it's like a calm situation. But if it's something like that, or really uppity with energy and stuff, it's kind of like no filter whatsoever. And so the first words out of my mouth, because no filter, was, don't you have a more important golf game to be in? And he just kind of stopped in his track. Go, whoa. I'm like, Chief Warrant Officer 3. Just saying. Not trying to be rude, Chief. But where is my funeral director? He's at E7 and you're a Chief Warrant Officer 3. So, don't you have a more important golf game to be at? Oh my God. And I was just like, so, just throwing that out there. I mean, nice to meet you. Yeah, thanks for your service. That's cool. But, hey. Just gonna throw this out there. Don't you have a more important golf game to be at than an E5 infantry funeral? Just saying. No? Okay. Apparently, anybody who knows military stuff, that's a big red flag right there. I mean, redder than my hair. And so, again, not being rude, just one of those, good morning. So then, I was like, hey, it's been a long drive. I was told my children couldn't go to the memorial service, so what's going on? Can you just get 3 hours to get from San Antonio past the downtown Austin area? Get a phone call. Where are you? Driving to the funeral area. Oh, well, we're going to have the memorial in like 10 minutes. Can you be at Fort Sam Houston in like 10 minutes? No, you cannot. Why not? Because I just passed downtown Austin and I'm going to sign for the body. That's why. Oh, I thought that the memorial was supposed to be on Monday. Well, we had to rearrange because the chaplain was going on vacation. Oh, okay. That's the reason why. Oh, not. Oh, can't do. Oh, okay. There was no other chaplain available. Not being rude, just one of those. Like, come on. That technically would be the first red flag. Technically. Spring it on you last minute. Yes, that's a big red flag. And so, the Chief Warrant Officer 3 is like, so, gotta ask you some questions. All right, Chief, let's go. I cannot tell a lie, so what would you like to know? And he was like, well, I gotta ask you this question. I'm like, okay. So we go into this big conference room. And I was like, I don't mind if my ex-in-laws are in the room. Don't mind at all. My children can be there. Nobody has to, go in a different area. No big deal. I thought. I corrected that real quick. So, my ex-brother-in-law Tony is over here on the right-hand side. There's a table in between. Chief warrant officers at the other end of the table. I'm at this end of the table. All of the children, whether my son and daughter or the cousins, are running around. And then my ex-mother-in-law, my ex-2 sisters-in-law. Chief warrant officer 3 is just like, and I'm like, go ahead, Chief, what you gotta ask? And he puts down the memorial poster. And it has a picture that my children, my son and daughter, my now ex-boyfriend, and my now dead ex-husband were in at a JCPenney portrait studio picture, in which Robert had worn his dress blues. And I was like, okay, what about it? And I told him that. I told him, so yeah, that was taken at JCPenney's, what about it? And he points to some of the fruit salad. That's military lingo for the ribbons. And it's not being disrespectful, that's just what it's called, because if you look at it, it looks like a fruit salad. If you have enough. Just saying, I only remember 2 ribbons. Not that I earned either one, but it's the rainbow ribbon, which in its own right looks kind of like a fruit salad in a miniature, fairy-sized way. And then, the Medal of Honor ribbon. That's it. Although realistically, I only remembered the symbol. But anyway, point being, so before I could speak, ex-sister-in-law 1 and ex-sister-in-law 2, thing 1 and thing 2, if you really think about it, their voice, they just, and I'm just like, no. Now, mind you, Tony, my ex-brother-in-law, he takes several steps back. And I was like, ooh, red flag. Tony was in the army. He was in combat arms. It's like, ooh, I don't like that. Okay. I'm not gonna, and partially it was so, obviously the Chief Ward Officer 3 didn't have to deal with that. But also because I wanted to do what I could to protect Tony from that. And I was like, no, 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 shush. Chief, you smoke? And he's like, I smoke cigars. Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my cigarettes. You want much? Cool, and we're going, and then I'll let you know. And then you can deal with that. But at the same time, Tony's 2 sisters knew better than to pester Tony because he has a temper. And so, go to the latrine, bathroom, whatever, get my cigarettes, tell my children I'm going to be right back, give my son and daughter a kiss. Chief, you ready? Let's go. Oh, okay, sure. Oh my God, what is going on? I'm like, so we walk outside and we go down the stairs and I look at him, I go, so I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And we're walking. I'm like, we are going to talk about anything except for what you need to ask me. And I'm going to tell you why, and it's not to deny you any of your questions, Chief. He's like, oh my God, oh, okay, you're going to tell me how this goes? And I'm like, it's for the best. Because and we're walking, and I'm like, because I'm going to tell you, in about 30 seconds, there's going to be the first round where they send out some of the older cousins, and they're going to try to be ninja, but they're not going to be ninja. So, then if we are talking and they hear what we're talking about, they're going to interject, or they're going to yell back to their moms, and you're not going to be able to, I'm going to have to deal with that. I don't want to. He's like, oh my God. And I'm like, so, don't worry, Chief. I will answer whatever questions you got. But after that, it's going to be about maybe a minute. And then, that's when the 2 sisters are going to walk around. They're going to try to flank. And I just realized I probably shouldn't have entered. And so, it's not, so we're going to just keep walking, and we're going to go as far as possible, because what's going to wind up happening is my ex-sister-in-law, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, she's going to get tired the quickest, and she's going to go back in. Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen is going to try to keep up, but the further we go out, she's just going to, and then, the other children and stuff like that, they'll slowly make their way, and we'll have about a 20-25 minute walk, and then we'll be clear to dock. Cool? Do you need an extra cigar? And, oh God, no. And then right when he says that, doors open. Out comes the first wave, and it's like, so what do you think about the weather right now? And he's just like, oh my God, oh, okay, yeah, the weather's great. And I'm just like, you need a light? I've got a few lighters on me at school. And he just looks at me like, oh, okay, we're going to go for a walk. And it's like, yes, we're going to go for a walk, Chief Warren. So how far did you travel to get here? Oh, well, that's in where? And we're just, so then, as I said, They gave up after a while, and it's like, okay, what questions you got, Chief? And by the way, they were not ninja at all. Like, no. Like, they for those who understand military stuff, I want to give you a few examples, okay? So, like, here's the pretend these are the flat cemetery markers, okay? And they're like hiding over here, and it's like, no, that's not camo. Like, there's a tall one right here, but no, I'm gonna hide at the flat marker. Like, you can't see me at all. And then, instead of hiding behind the tall marker, they stand on top of it. And it's like, yeah, no, not camo at all. And then they go and like try to hide it again by a flat marker, and it's like, you are not ninjas at all. And it's just like, yeah, no. You're not ninjas. You're not going in the military because you don't know how to camo. And so, and if you do, you're gonna wash out real quick. If you don't pick it up and learn real quick. If you don't adapt. And so, Chief asked me a few things, and I tell him, his first question to me was, what if I were to ask you, would you believe if I told you that, and he said Sergeant Nichols would lie. And I looked at him, I go, can I answer that before you tell me what he lied about? He was just like, okay. And I said, so first, I had a head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I'm going to guesstimate that you've already read my records, at least a minimal portion. And he's like, oh my God, yes. And I'm just like, okay. So I can't lie, unlike him. And I told him, meaning the Chief Warrant Officer 3, how Robert tried to tell me that he got called on IRR, Individual Ready Reserve, but he was going to pick where he was stationed at. No, that's not how the Army works. No, not at all. And the Chief was like, oh my God. And I was like, so, not to be rude at all to you, Chief, or to anybody in the military. I'm just letting you know I would not be surprised. I'd like to say it, like, and like, mean it, and, like, real and stuff, but I can't. I mean, there are more lies that he did wind up telling me, but that is an example for you as to why, if you were to tell me that you found some inaccuracies in his records, I wouldn't be surprised. And Chief looked at me, oh my God, okay. And so I said, he was complaining before his death that he was wanting a Purple Heart, and he had been denied a Purple Heart. And so, I told him when he complained to me that if his command over in Iraq didn't think he earned a Purple Heart, he didn't earn a Purple Heart. It's very simple. Why? And he was like, well, it's kind of funny you bring up the Purple Heart, because did you know that he has Purple Heart ribbon and then 2 oak leaf clusters on there? No, I graduate basic training, so I know the rainbow ribbon and I know the Medal of Honor. That's it. Why? Because he has 2 oak leaf clusters on the Purple Heart. Well, that's different technically, right, than the commander in Iraq. Oh my God. no. And so he explained some of it to me. I'm like, okay, well, if there are inaccuracies, then there are inaccuracies. I can't lie, so I acknowledge that and I know that you know that we were over before he went into Iraq. And if you didn't know that, let me clarify that for you. And he was like, yeah, I kind of knew that. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not trying to sound like the stereotypical ex-wife. And he's like, you definitely do not. And I'm like, okay, cool. But in realistic aspects, this is like, I wouldn't be surprised. And she was like, oh my God, okay, sure. Oh, I'm glad you're. Do you have any other questions? And so he had multiple questions before that had absolutely nothing to do with, because, you know, not ninjas running around at all whatsoever. And so afterwards, I go inside and I'm like, hey, I'll let you know, like, you don't have to deal with the ex-in-laws, like, you got enough to deal with. I will explain it to the one's, like, husband when he gets here, but I'll also, like, explain it to their brother. And he knows how to speak with them, so they, like, shut up and listen. And if they don't shut up and listen, then he's going to make them listen. And then if they don't listen still, he's just going to, like, you don't exist. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how it is. And he was just like, oh my God, okay. So went inside, saw Tony, and I'm like, so this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And he's just like, yeah, I kind of figured. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not trying to be mean when I say this. He's like, no, I know. I'm like, so, but you gotta do with your sister. I don't know how to speak to them, and I'm already pissed off that your sister, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, wants to have his funeral at a cathedral, and I have to, like, talk with the priest about that. He was just like, oh my God. So you're going to actually talk to the priest about that? And I was like, yeah. He's like, thank you. No problem. I'll handle that. Don't you? He's just... But you got to deal with them. And like, that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off. Sorry. So then the funeral happens, and there's like, you know, all those ranks there, and I go over to Grandpa Nichols, and I'm like, hey. And he's like, yeah, because he had already been informed about the stuff, and he had been shown, because Susie Marie Nichols Lopez took the poster. I was like, I know you know, and we had talked and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, and he goes, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's not your fault. But do you notice how many shinies are around? Do you see these shinies? And he's just like, what shinies? Oh. Mind you, Grandpa Nichols was in Vietnam, did 4 volunteer tours, and then he was a drill sergeant volunteering and voluntold 6 times. Those who understand drill sergeant stuff understand, unless you are a really good drill sergeant, you're not going to do that 6 times. And so I'm just like, I mean, it's really cool. Like, I want to be like, hey, but not the time or place and stuff. So like, and to this day, I still feel bad for a lot of them. But in specific, I still feel bad for, and anybody who's military, law enforcement, fire department, they know what I'm talking about or understand that stuff. So the two different 2 stars present the brown star, and I'm like, what'd he do? That was, it was not, thank you, it was, what did he do? He didn't earn a Purple Heart. He stole 2 Purple Heart clusters and a ribbon, and you're giving, what is this for? And don't you have more important goals? And they're just like, can you be respectful of the family? I am. General looks at me, or Lieutenant General, or I'm sorry, Major General, not, sorry, Major General looks at me and is like, can you not, okay, wait a minute, could you not do this now? Okay, but we're gonna talk later. We did. And so, we did. And so, take it, and I was just like, kind of becoming a soldier. Understand? And I don't know manuals, but I know this like, okay. They present the one over to Grandma and Grandpa Nichols, and Grandpa Nichols looks over at me and he's like, stars is all I see right now. There's 4 of them, but 2 different ones. Sure, I'll get to the bottom of that, you know that. Anyway, and I technically did, but anyway, I kept my promise for him and Tony. Like the issue with the Bronze Star, that was only for Grandpa Nichols and Tony. Like that, as far as Robert's relations. Not snowballing into a different way, but yeah. And so, irony. Sorry, my mind's in the gutter right at this second. So, and so, especially with Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen. Anyway, so, and Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, but anyway, sorry. Whatever you're into is whatever you're into. So going back to who I feel bad for is before the Bronze Star is awarded, there's, the 21 gun saluter guys, and those who know military stuff know that you're not usually going to get someone above an E4 to be doing the 21 gun salute. And so that in turn means the flag folding is usually even lower rank. And I'm looking at all the stars and birds and clusters, and I'm just like, Okay, yeah, warm. I mean, yeah, they're supposed to be ready at all times, but that much? I mean, yeah, they're used to seeing E8 and E9. They're not used to seeing that many at 1 E5s. And so, in my thoughts, I'm looking at the guys before the flag folding, and I'm like, whoever's flag folding, all of those other ones are probably like, thank God it's not me! But then, they have the guys who do the flag folding. And the one who was going to do the tucking part, you could tell he was either fresh out of basic training and in like the 30-day period, or he was fresh out of AIT. And it was like, And so in my thoughts, I'm like, just focus. And then, he's given the flag, and by the time it gets to him, he's trembling. I'm like, don't, keep it. And you could see where he almost, but caught it like a football. It's like, yes! Touchdown, but not but touchdown. And, because those who know military stuff know you don't drop the flag. So, the ceremony finishes up, and yes, I did speak with the priest at the church and let him know that my ex-in-laws put stuff that was non-religious, that was not considered acceptable, with the exception of Tony and Grandpa Nichols by technicalities because of the Torah aspect in the Old Testament for the yarmulke, and then my two children. My son put in a skateboard, and my daughter put in a multicolor sea turtle, whereas the rest of them put in like Buddhist and Egyptian and other stuff. And it's like, you're taking it to a Catholic church to have like taken care of by a priest. He's an atheist. Oh, they won't care. Yeah, it's the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Ever heard of the Crusades? Ever heard of the Knights of Templar? No, that don't mean anything to you? Oh, okay, I'm gonna talk to the priest. Don't you do it. I'm gonna talk to the priest. Don't you do it. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I talked to the priest. And I told him, even though he didn't know me, all he had to do was lift the casket and the lid and see. And he'd know. And thankfully he did the ceremony in the cafeteria and not in the cathedral. But after the ceremony, I went out to where the 21 gun saluters were. And I was like, hey, speak with you guys? And they're like, yeah, you're like the winner. I'm like, technically. Thank you guys for coming out. Spoke with them. I'm like, and who were the guys who folded the flag? And at that point, every soldier that did not have their hand on the flag went. The ones that are right there, those guys did it. I was like, okay, you guys come here. And they're just like, oh, okay. I'm like, so first off, I know that this is a weird situation. So who is the one who almost dropped the flag? And the other two go. I'm like, so let me tell you what's gonna happen. You three are all gonna, you're all gonna wind up in the office. You're all gonna wind up, but you especially. I know that you are a private. And he said, I'm like, those two, they've got rockets. And so, or chevrons. And so, I did not graduate basic training. I had head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, but I'm giving you this warning so that way you can mentally prepare yourself, not to scare you, not to upset you, but so that way you know, so that way you are prepared, because you are going to go in. And he's like, am I going to get, and I'm like, if you get an Article 15, which I doubt you will, you're going to get yelled at because of all the higher ranking, and it's just realistically for show because you came from whoever's unit. It's nothing against you, but you do get to have that ability to know that you got to be on your toes at all times. And you handled the situation good. You got it. You didn't drop the flag, which that's the important part. But just so you know, you are going to be out. It won't be that bad. It won't be that long. Afterwards, it won't be a big deal. You're going to be joked around with by some of the other guys, but it's not going to be that bad. Okay? I'm not mad at you. I'm technically, but I'm not mad. And you got all these guys right here that got me saying that to you. I'm not mad. So don't be scared. Okay? And you're just like, oh, I'm really sorry. Don't apologize. You caught it. It's a lot more that can be said, especially being as low rank as you are. You're good to go. So don't be too scared, okay? And they were just like, the other ones are like, is this happening right now? Do you see this? Do you see this? Do you see this? But realistically, if that prepared them, because they weren't expecting that. They weren't expecting any of that. And it was just one of those, at least you're prepared. At least you have the knowledge. You may not understand how much you're going to be yelled at, because you're going to be yelled at. But at least you're prepared. And so since you're prepared, you're ahead of it. You at least know what's going to happen. So, now, thank you, and then went on, and I went to go look for those 2 stars, and they were gone. They were not there. It's like, I will see you later. And I did. But I will get to that in a different video. So like and share this and send it to other individuals who might need understanding. You have a good one.